entire field team in the van because taking two vehicles would be fiscally irresponsible in these days of short staffing and expensive gas. Jeff was in the passenger seat, having claimed it by sheer dint of will, and by agreeing to let Sloane control the radio, which meant, naturally, that we'd been listening to a band called Five Finger Death Punch since leaving the office, and I was starting to consider the virtues of earplugs. Demi had already given in to temptation. She was wearing noise-canceling headphones and had stretched out across the van's rearmost seat, playing air flute as she listened to something light, classical, and less likely to make her eardrums bleed. Andy, caught in the middle as always, was sitting with his arms crossed, feigning sleep, while Sloane was methodically ripping the magazines she'd brought for the trip into confetti. And we still had over an hour to go. "You're riding in the back on the way home," I said, glancing to Jeff. "I can't handle another 3.5 hours of screaming men telling me about carnage." "I understand completely," said Jeff. He looked back to the book he was balancing on his knees. "Since we're almost there, are we ready to address the elephant in the room?" "Which one? The one where this is the second narrative incursion my brother's been involved with in the last 6 months? Or the one where this is potentially the second 327 Demi's been involved with?" The first one had nearly led to us losing her for good. We still didn't know whether that was solely due to Bertie's influence or because Pipers were uniquely vulnerable to the witches who built gingerbread houses. There was only one way to find out for sure. The places where stories rubbed against each other were hard to document without actual exposure, and the records were woefully incomplete when it came to questions like, are Pied Pipers always vulnerable to temptation, no matter how self-destructive it would be to give in? That was why Demi had been allowed, more like required, to come with us, even with both me and Jeff saying it would be better to leave her behind. Deputy Director Brewer could require me to take her into the field, but he couldn't force me to let Demi anywhere near the narrative taking root behind my brother's school. Demi wasn't going to meet another gingerbread witch if I had anything to say about it. I'd handcuff her to the van before I allowed that to happen. And, judging by the way she'd gone pale and silent when she heard about this assignment, she'd let me. She had no more desire to be lost again than the rest of us had to lose her. "That's it," I said, as the lead singer of Five Finger Death Punch went into a particularly loud tirade. I turned off the radio. Jeff immediately relaxed, a look of blissful peace spreading across his face. Andy's shoulders dropped down from where they'd been trying to touch his ears. Sloane looked up from her magazine and scowled. "Hey," she said, "I get to pick the music this trip. You promised, remember? I didn't stab your boyfriend for taking my seat, and you let me pick the music." "I remember," I said. "If I turn the radio back on, it will definitely resume playing your music. But, for the moment, I need my head to stop pounding, and we need to talk about what we're going to do when we get to the school. Can somebody get Demi's attention?"
"On it,"
said Andy before Sloane could propose something unpleasant. He twisted in his seat, reaching back to set a hand gently on Demi's upper arm.
"Hey, time to come back to the land of the living. Boss lady's gonna start talking, and we're expected to pretend to listen."
Demi sat up, sliding her headphones down. The sound of something sweet and classical drifted through the van before she switched her MP3 player off. "Are we there already?" she asked, making no attempt to conceal her anxiety. "About an hour out," I said. "I just wanted us to take a minute to talk about how this is going to go, all right?" "We get there, we find the story, we punch the story until it stops kicking, and then we leave it for the cleanup team," said Sloane. "Case closed. Let's go out for ice cream sundaes." "Cute idea, but no," I said. "For one thing, this is a school day, and we don't have a good excuse to evacuate the campus."
"Yet?"
added Andy. "Yet," I agreed. If the narrative gathered enough strength, we'd have to close the school or risk losing any student